Welcome, everyone, wherever you're zooming in from. In fact, tell us where you're zooming in from. Where are you zooming in from today? And I will tell you, there is favor on your face. So if you are able to share your beautiful face with us, we'd love to see you. We're going to be sharing some fabulous nuggets today about one of the things that we're going to talk about today. We're going to do a quick recap of yesterday. And I'm curious, raise of hands for those of you that got the email, but only like 30 minutes ago with the replays and the Kingdom cash flow tracker. While we're getting started today, if you could try and open those and please see if you're able to actually use them because we're using um, a new system and I'm not sure if it's really working for people. So I would really love your feedback as to whether or not it is a tool that you can actually use. So friends, as we're getting started today, welcome. We know you could be a lot of places on a Tuesday afternoon, and we're so blessed and grateful that you're here with us today. It's day 2 of our Faith, Freedom, and Finance Challenge. And just to remind you, yesterday we talked a lot about our purpose, right? We talked a lot about the fact that we are God's masterpiece. We're not a financial mistake. We talked about wealth in the kingdom is simply not about money. It's about the absence of lack. We talked about when we actually know where our money's going, we're a lot more likely to actually be able to provide purpose to it. And it's much more easy to earn and multiply when we actually know what it's doing. Okay. Today, we're going to talk more about how God gives us power to create wealth, not just a paycheck, but a play check. Eventually, we love to talk about getting a sleigh check in our community. And we're going to talk about connecting our calling and our cash flow because when purpose meets obedience, we know that provision follows. And we have a cool tool that we're going to share with you. We like to call our streams of Eden. So, welcome everyone. I'm Lisa Williams. It's my blessing to be here with you today. A little bit about me, I've been in the industry for about 30 years now. I was blessed financially in corporate America for many, many years and just found one day I woke up and I could not remember the last time I learned something new. I looked around and the room just looked, it was not a place that I was going to continue growing. So I started searching for new avenues. I've always been fascinated by the world of finance. I've always loved to learn about building wealth differently and kind of accidentally landed in this industry, by the way, because I became a student of what we do. I started attending a lot of classes. I started bringing ideas to my financial advisor, my 2 financial advisors that I had, and I found they were trying to mansplain me. They were trying to basically tell me my ideas were not prudent, and really it was code for I actually don't know what you're talking about. I realized I was in the wrong room with these men, both very nice men, don't get me wrong, but didn't have a lot to teach me the last couple of years I was with them. So I want to start by, opening up the room to talk about why are you doing what you're doing now? And I also would love to get a sense from you guys of, maybe not necessarily, I know we have some agents on the call. There's reasons that you're doing what you're doing today, for example. But I'd like to start with why did you originally pick your career? So anyone, this is free flowing, anyone that wants to pipe in, this is especially, remember I ask a lot of these questions because I have a senior in high school and she's in this decision-making time right now. Remember that? It was many years ago for me. But I'm just curious, how did people pick what they do, when they first started their career? Go ahead, Diane.
I fell into it.
You fell into it.
I
Okay.
did. I was working as an office manager for a life insurance company up in the Phoenix area. And after about 6 months, I decided I was on the wrong side of the desk. However,
Mm.
back then, there were no women agents, very, very few. And when I told them what I wanted to do, they told me, and I quote, "There's no room for women in sales in our industry."
Wow.
Yeah.
How long ago was that, Diane?
That
Out
was
of curiosity?
1976. I know I'm dating myself, but
So
yeah.
you are truly a trailblazer in our
Yeah, yeah.
industry.
So I had to go
Truly.
to a different company, but it worked out great. I was still the only woman agent, but I got treated like royalty.
I love it. I love it. I love the fact that women are taking territory in this business. I think it's pretty fabulous. I love that. Anyone else accidentally land in their career out of curiosity? I did too. I moved to California with my future ex-husband. I was terrified to drive on the freeways, and I went to a staffing agency that was the closest one to my house, so I wouldn't have to drive. And it was a temp agency, and they wanted me to take a typing test. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do you much good taking that typing test. But what do you do? And I started interviewing the recruiter. And that's how I fell into the role of headhunter and recruiter for decades. And I loved it. Thank God the accident worked out, right? Anybody else? What about you, Don? You raised your hand earlier.
Oh, I was gonna say mine started early. I met somebody in high school and went and lived with them, and they worked in the airlines, and it was the perfect storm for me.
I
But
love it.
at the same time, I also became an entrepreneur, but didn't know much about it. It was with Shackley. And so didn't, it wasn't a big deal back then. And so
Hmm.
I think also to know how to pivot and how to make a trajectory for yourself is super important to me now because I've done all kinds of things. I've been in financial services before and I am now. If I would have known now then what I know now, it would have been different. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and sometimes the season is not the right time, right? As well, right? Sometimes we have to trust God's timing in that as well, for
that's
sure.
true. There are seasons in our life. When I look back, I thought, wow, I could have been a teacher. I had 4 children in 4 years, but I didn't know I was going to have that happen. But I
Yeah.
could have gone into teaching and that would have been perfect for that season. But I think often we think about career, we think about one. Maybe
Mhm.
younger people don't. Maybe they think, oh, I could do all kinds of things. I'll do different things in different seasons. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah,
That's a good question.
absolutely. Absolutely. I see when I was recruiting in tech and finance, I saw a lot of people in technology. They were there because they simply Googled, it's the highest paying job. If you were like a white Caucasian, here in the States, if you were an immigrant, I worked with a lot of foreign nationals. It's because that's what their parents told them that they could do. They had like three choices. One of my best friends is Filipino, and she said, Lisa, I had three choices. I could be a doctor, I could be an engineer, or I could be an attorney. Those were acceptable to my parents, right? And so think about also, I want to invite you, mine as well. I received everything. Thank you, Lisa. Okay, so it is working. Okay, cool. Awesome. So use that tool, guys. I know that our team wasn't able to get it out as quickly as we anticipated, but use the tool because the goal is to help us all be better stewards of our finances and therefore our wealth building. And it starts with having just really clean records, whether you are already an established business owner like myself, whether you're starting out in your business, whether you're just running your household. Maybe you're not even a business owner, but I promise you, when you are obedient when it comes to your finances, God is going to bless you abundantly, right? So let's talk about, okay, Sana, we'll make sure we get it to you. Let's talk about, one of my favorite topics today. I want to talk about when your purpose and your calling and your assignment are in alignment. Okay. We call this the streams of Eden, mapping your income with your purpose. And I want to invite you to consider for a minute. One of my favorite scriptures is Deuteronomy 8:18. But remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the power to create wealth. This has been one of my favorite scriptures for decades, and then I happened upon this crazy kingdom entrepreneur named Pedro Adeo. He's a mentor of some of ours, and he was starting to talk about finance in the kingdom. And I'm like, who is this guy talking about my industry, but also talking about the kingdom of God? And I had never heard it really described and this scripture specifically talked about in this way. But I want you to think about for a second when you think back on previous roles that you've had in play. Were you truly there because that is what you were qualified to do? Because that is what you were uniquely designed to do? Or was it by accident, like some of us? Now, thankfully, sometimes our accidents really are what we were uniquely qualified to do, right? I truly believe the 25 years I spent as a headhunter, I was very, very gifted in that space and I was blessed. I also believe my assignment was meant to change probably about 5 years long before I actually did, before I actually got I made the brave leap to enter into a new chapter. Pedro he shared this at our last conference, and this really, really hit me. As an entrepreneur, how many of you have opted into workshops around finding your purpose? What's your calling, right? What are you designed to do? How many times have we done this, right? I can't tell you how many workshops and different ideas around this concept. And I loved what Pedro shared at our last conference in October. And I'm deciding to own this for myself. Now, this is just another idea that you can all take in as well. But what he said is that this really applies to those of us that do have faith in our life, right? That our purpose as believers is to represent God on earth and expand his kingdom. It's not just a suggestion, it's a command, right? And that our calling is also the same, to grow every day closer to the image of Christ because we are his masterpiece. And that's what we're called to do. But this is where I love what he said. Our assignment is what changes. Our assignment can be multiple, it can be unique. It is definitely unique. And it also is meant to shift and grow. Isn't it interesting? Have you ever thought about most people in the world, the way that they're living their lives right now, myself included for decades? I was trained to go to school, get a good job, and then work for 30 or 40 years, right? For building someone else's dream. And it should work out financially, fingers crossed. So, question is, how many people are really living that abundant life, truly feeling fulfilled in what they're doing? Um, I sit down with families every single day by talking about their finances. A lot of you do. Raise up hands for those of you that are sitting down with families every single day. And my question is, how's this working out for them? I'd like to ask anyone anyone that wants to share. How's it working out? Are they financially free in 30 or 40 years? Anyone raise of hands? Are they fulfilled? Are they happy? Are they full of joy? Or like me, were they actually supposed to change their assignment quite a few years ago, and they just didn't get around to it. So can you imagine, friends, just think about this concept. We used to be made up of 90% entrepreneurs, this a great, amazing country. Jesus was one of the most amazing entrepreneurs, right? He was a great recruiter as well, wasn't he? By the way, right? And think about all of the roles that Jesus played, right? He was teacher, he was healer, he was builder, he was recruiter, right? He had different assignments, right? And think about today. I'm thinking about my daughter, Sierra, is applying for college. She has absolutely no clue what she wants to do, but she likes teaching. She likes her teacher. She's had a really great experience. So, Carol, she's going to be pursuing teaching. And I think to myself, thank God I know how to show her how to build wealth as well, because that is not going to do it, right? Wouldn't we agree? It might be a comfortable, okay financial lifestyle, but it's not going to sustain the beach life that she loves, that she's been raised in, right? So think about, imagine now, um, if we all have these different assignments, why then do our kids graduate from college with this certificate of completion as though their learning has been completed, right? I love what Dano says. How many of you are in Kingdom Seekers out of curiosity? Anyone else in Kingdom Seekers? Have you guys been hearing about how he's talking about when we are creating, when we are learning, it's the time that some of the times that we are closest to God. When we are actually learning something new, when we are creating, when we're thinking about a different assignment, right? So now I want to just invite you. There's an exercise that will be sending you the streams of Eden. And I would love to just open up the chat for a few minutes and just ask what some of these prompts, share some of these with us, friends. What are you uniquely qualified to do? What gifts has God just genuinely placed that you find easy, that people go to you to have these things because they know you have these gifts, right? Anyone willing to be brave enough to share, Carol?
Yeah, teaching comes naturally to me with children. So
Mm-hmm.
with children, I was talking to Jill about this at our conference. It's like I didn't even know why I was getting paid because it's just if there's a child in the room, I'm going to be focused on them and helping them understand their world around them. So
Mm,
that's just like falling off a log, but I've definitely moved into a different circle.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And yet, when you think about that skill, that doesn't come easily to most people, right? It is definitely a quality that you were blessed with. Yeah. I find, there's I listened to a podcast once and it was funny. They said the things that we're typically most uniquely qualified for that come easy, it's kind of the things that we got in trouble for when we were kids. So, for example, I always got in trouble for talking and playing. Like, I love costume jewelry. I used to get in trouble for, the things that I was wearing. I have my jingle balls on right now because it's Christmas in my house because my daughter's crazy. No, I'm just kidding. It's already Christmas in our house. But, was there anything that you just like when you were a kid? It just was easy. And then sometimes it stops being easy. Maybe the world tries to quiet you or something. Anyone else want to share? What do people come to you for help for? Anyone?
I'll
Thomas?
share. Are you sharing, Donis? Go ahead.
Yeah. God gifted me with logic. And sorry, I'm a little under the weather, but my husband is an entertainer. So when we're putting together his routing, my logical brain, it's like, and we get him there and back with, ease. And so
Yeah.
problem solving is part of that as well. So
Absolutely. I'm so blessed that I get to have Donis in my life. She helps me keep orderly. What if anyone else, Dawn, you were gonna share?
Oh, Jonas, that's such a great gift. I call that the strategic brain also. Yeah, I tend to have that. Um, Organizing came easy, math came easy. My dad's a financial person, so, and he's also, um, for me, I'm visionary, so it was easy for me to pick up all of his little innuendos and ideas about how to save money, how to implement things, and how to create, because he was also creative. So I feel like those things, and I was just writing these down. It says, "What gifts remain unused?" And it's very sad that my artistic ability has been put on hold.
Oh, no, don't let it. Oh my gosh, I know. You guys have probably heard the story of there was a man that got up to heaven and he went through the pearly gates and he started walking through heaven and there was all these doors and every single door had a name on it. And he noticed his name and he was being guided through the gates of heaven. And he's like, what's through that door? What's beyond that door? And, the angel just kept saying, oh, don't worry about that. You made it, you're here. And finally, he just kept seeing these doors. And finally, he's like, wait, I want to see what's on the other side of that door. And he opened it and it was like Christmas Wonderland. There was all these gifts beautifully wrapped and they all had his name on it. And he asked the angel, "What are these?" And he basically was told that, well, you know what? These are all the gifts that God intended for you to keep opening throughout your lifetime. But you settled. Now, you were a good person. Don't get me wrong. You're here. There was more that God had available for you, right? So, my question for all of us is what would we pursue if fear wasn't a factor? And specifically, friends, I want to invite you to consider what would you pursue when it comes to wealth building? We are here to talk about freedom. I believe in the American dream. I believe far too many people are not living their version of the American dream. We live in the greatest country in the world, in my opinion. We have so much freedom. We have so much ability at our disposal. This workshop alone, in other countries would not be allowed to be broadcast, right? And yet all this is available. But what is holding us back from pursuing it? And I believe it's fear. And I also believe it's the enemy getting in our heads. Now, I want to ask you a question. What is leadership to you? And again, we're going to require some audience participation. What is leadership to you? Miss Sana, I'm going to pick on you. What's leadership to you?
To me, leadership is when someone is capable of taking another person or a group and walk together and helping them to achieve what they want to achieve, but not just showing them, but doing together.
I love that. Anyone else? What else? We all have something that's coming to mind.
setting the example.
Love that. There's no wrong answer, by the way, right?
Leadership means that somebody's following you. If nobody's following, you're probably not leading.
Right. Anyone else? It's a lot of things. This topic is coming from a class that I'm in at church right now. And this is a 12-week class that I'm in. And what was fascinating, I mean, obviously there's lots of like ideas of what leadership is, right? But the main takeaway yesterday is that leadership is influence. It's influence. This is actually a John Maxwell quote, Don. I love this quote by him. And here's the good news. We all have it. We all
We
have
do.
influence. We are all leading all the time, whether it's intentional or it's unintentional. You know, our very presence here in this room, this Zoom room, is influence, right? And I really loved what the pastor said last night. This really struck me that we are thermostats. Every single one of us are thermostats, not thermometers. We have the ability, and we do it every day, to set the temperature of the room. Not just take the temperature and report on it, but actually influence the room by who we are. And we talked about, the two essential really roles of leadership are having self-awareness, knowing, how our patterns, what they are and how they show up, and also feedback. And seeking feedback from people that we trust, that we know love us, right? And doing it continually. Because guess what? The enemy wants to keep us alone. The enemy wants to isolate us. So just the fact that you said yes to this workshop today, you are binding Satan from your life, because he wants us to stay in isolation. That's the biggest challenge that happened during COVID, in my opinion, is how many people got isolated. And even in the Zoom rooms we would be on, how many people ended up not even turning their cameras on. You know what I mean? So thank you for turning your cameras on, ladies, and showing up for yourself. And I want to invite you to an exercise. Would we agree? So do we all agree we are all influencers? Not the worldly way of I'm an influencer, look at my, I don't know, my big booty that I created from plastic, and my lips that don't look real, and just, all the things. But I'm talking, we agree that we are influencers. Now, how are we stewarding it? And so I want to challenge all of you. I am going through this exercise. For those of you that are on my team, I'm going to be reaching out to you, because the call to action for you is to increase your self-awareness. How do you do that? You get feedback. You first do it by yourself. You look at, what are my patterns? And you do it with the Holy Spirit. You tap into the Holy Spirit within you. What are my patterns? How am I showing up? Lord, what do you think? But then guess what? We get to be brave. We get to seek feedback. If we're in partnership, it should come from our spouse. The first place it should come is our spouse. And if, you know what? It's funny. Like, I was thinking about that last night. I mean, many of you know my husband. Paul is he's like a black and white guy. There's not a lot of gray. And he's not the most outwardly emotional person, right? The idea of receiving, like giving feedback, his idea is he's always giving me feedback. Anyone else have a husband that's always giving them feedback? Right? But really what it feels like is correction. Right? It feels like correction. So this is the way that he suggested you do it. And I think it's great, because I personally need some coaching on, well, how do I, right? How do I even ask for feedback? So the first step is, okay, be self-aware. For example, I know for myself that I tend to say yes to too many things. Okay. So the way that I am going to do it with my husband is I'm going to mention to him, you know what? I've been really, I've been working on myself and I recognize that I need to slow down, that I need to say yes to less. How am I showing up for you around that concept? How is that affecting you? What do you think? Right? The feedback is important. And I want to encourage you to select a group of people. And please be sure, don't just select the people that you know will give you the information you want to hear, right? Be open to the feedback, not always being positive, you know? So it's important that we prepare our hearts. I encourage you to ask your closest friends, maybe just pick one. Ask your children. Our children are pretty good at giving us feedback as well, right? Depending how old they are, right? Ask your boss if you have a boss in the workplace. Ask your mentor. And I'm going to be asking my team if you have people you mentor. I want to encourage you to get that feedback. It is going to expand and it's going to allow us to take territory even faster. There's a little sheet that you'll get that'll show you, just the streams of Eden mapping exercise, description of the gift, how it serves your calling. Where do you rate yourself right now? Are you high? Are you low? Right? And what kind of action step you can take? Well, first have those conversations, right? And then do it quarterly. So guess what? Next time you meet with them 3 months from now, you know what? When I asked for your feedback, you told me this. I've been working on that. How's it showing up? Right? And again, be open. What did you say, Dawn? What were you gonna say?
And is it showing up?
And is it showing up?
I've
Yeah,
had that with some
exactly.
of the things I've been trying to change.
Exactly. And I will tell you, I mean, let's just talk about our finances because this is a perfect segue to, how we're showing up here. Because even though I do this for a living, my husband still thinks I am all over the shop when it comes to finances. And he's not wrong, by the way. He's not wrong. So I am literally taking this exercise seriously to my heart as well. I'm going to go through and, we've given you quite a few pieces of homework this week. It's, now we're adding this streams of Eden, but, do your audit of trust. Do your kingdom cash flow tracker. These will be great steps that will help you better steward, the gifts that you've been blessed with as well by being obedient, right? And especially to my partners here on this call who are leading others in their kingdom finance journey, man, we are going to be so much better equipped if we do the hard work ourselves, right? So, yesterday we talked about how to protect these two hands. We talked about how to protect our wealth in some ways by having that volatility shield of life insurance between us and our money, right? Today we're going to talk about what options do we have to protect our actual assets. Have we lost money in our accounts in the past? How do we feel about fees? And how much longer would our assets last if we actually had a hedge of protection? And, we started to talk about this yesterday a little bit. The fact that most people are saving in one of the oldest financial tools on the planet, the 401k, the 403b if you're in education. Think of, I want to encourage you, think about all your friends, maybe yourself that are employees. The only thing that most employers offer is the 401k. Okay. And if you know anything about the stock market, I was just talking to a client earlier today about this, and he was talking about how he had lost like $100,000 in March. Now it had gone back up. He's got a pretty substantial account, right? But the market did drop. And what his biggest concern was is that he's no longer saving. So it used to be that when the market dropped, he would be able to then what? Buy low, right? He was dollar cost averaging. So it actually didn't affect him as much when the market would drop. Now, he's started his own business. He's not contributing as much to his retirement accounts. So every single dip really impacts him, right? Now, this chart shows what the market's been doing since 2008. We all know, when we're sitting down with clients, if you're in my industry, and they say, well, I'm really happy with how my advisor's been been doing. I met with a guy yesterday. I've been up 12% over the last 2 years. And I said, well, did you know that how do you feel about 12%? Oh, I love it. It's great. And I pulled up a little cheat sheet and I said, it's interesting because the market's actually up 30%. What actually is possible? And you've actually been taking a lot of risk as well. I actually showed him how much he was paying in fees. This particular account he was paying 1% in fees. He had over $1 million in that account. He was paying $10,000 a year in fees. You look at that's over 10 years, that's $100,000. And by the way, that was whether he won or he lost, whether his account went up or down. Even when he dropped, 100,000, he was still paying those fees. So, I showed him this chart. I said, think about this is actually the chart that I would be more concerned about right now, because this chart actually shows the market from 1929 to present. The top graph is 1929 to 1995. The bottom graph is 95 to present. And that little yellow button right there is where we are right now. And I asked him, what do you think's coming, sir? What do you think's coming? Is it wise to consider maybe getting off some of your money off the roller coaster, or even all of it, depending on, your risk tolerance? He's 67. Can you afford, especially considering you're not saving anymore? How much can you afford to lose? And he said, well, I don't want to lose anything. Well, let me ask you then, why are you still on the roller coaster? What have you done? And this comes back to leadership, right? Does anyone care about our money more than we do? Ladies, I hope not, right? Imagine if you were walking along down the road and there was like $100 bills just flying out because you had a hole in your pocket. Wouldn't we sew that hole up, right? So why are so many people not being leaders when it comes to their money? Why are so many people just be remaining complacent around it? It's because, why do you think? Anyone have any ideas?
I think there's lots of reasons. It's easier to ignore. They're not good with math or money, and there's a lot of shame that comes with that. There's a lot of self-judgment that comes with money.
Yeah.
Hardship. There's quite a few things.
Yep, absolutely. I think you're spot on, Dawn. There's a lot of shame. How many people have been, I had a woman I met with about a month ago. Her father is a financial advisor and was a financial advisor. He's no longer with her, but she's in her 60s, and he never talked to her about money because he didn't believe women needed to know about money, right? Women are going to possess 2/3 of the wealth by 2030, is what records say. Doesn't it make sense that we need to know about how money works? Right. Diane, how about you?
Well, the other reason is we've been sold a bill of goods and told to just let it ride, right? Just
Yeah.
dollar cost average and let it ride. The market always turns out. And we just blindly go into that because we don't have the education, we don't have the knowledge, and we don't have the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And isn't it interesting? I so agree, Diane. It really think about the industrial era is when things started to shift, right? Because that's when all of us became indoctrinated to be employees, right? Before there was lots of ways to build, there still are lots of ways to build wealth. But because we've been indoctrinated to be part of the corporate America system, we've sort of, it's almost like a perfect storm in some ways, isn't it? Because not only are women taught that they don't need to learn about money, still to this day, friends, I'm telling you, even my 17-year-old daughter, she is talked to differently when it comes to money and what what's available to her, in my opinion. Not in my house, but outside she is, right? Everything on social media. Think about it. Women, it's more about our what are we looking like versus what are our minds doing, right? So I want to share with you, really the key to diversification. Because, by the way, in that 2008 crash, um, my advisors told me I was diversified. But the problem was the whole market crashed. So let's talk about what true diversification is assets, different asset classes, right? Many of you are have a life license. You are helping people build wealth differently with life insurance. Yes, you can do the traditional, retirement plans, but you also can show them other ways. Many of you are pursuing businesses for yourself. So you're creating your own economy, your own kingdom economy. You are economy creators. I want to encourage you to think of yourselves as that way. You're creating your own economy and you're helping other families create their own economy, right? We are constant lifelong learners in this community. There is truth around, we learned this at I've heard this many times, but it didn't sink in as much until a couple months ago that the dollar is being devalued every single year, 8% a year. So think about your investments. You have to get 8% just to break even, right? Just to break even, my friends. Why is that, by the way? Because they're printing money like it's toilet paper. Sorry to be crass. It's just starting to feel just as valuable in some ways, right? Isn't that crazy? So why is this? Can you see how diversification is even more important? Just to break even, then our investments have to make 8%, right? So think about the value of diversifying into different asset classes. Many of you are running your own business, maybe you have real estate assets or you have at least a home. You might have stocks. Now, we don't do a lot in our world around commodities, although tomorrow we're gonna go deep into the crypto economy. And I'm gonna share my opinion about what the crypto space can do to multiply for anyone that's brave enough to do it. Now, I want to start by sharing a couple of quick things before we wrap today, because the reality is it's kind of the perfect storm right now. We know that taxes it's not a matter of if, but just when they're going to go up, right? We also know that our debt has never been higher. I love to check the debt clock. We're now at 37 trillion and growing. So imagine if you had a debt to pay, we're considered the biggest debtor in the world. If you had a debt to pay, would you rather pay that debt back with fully valued dollars or devalued dollars? Do you see how this devalue of the American dollar is not by accident, right? So, imagine we've also got the lowest tax rates in the history of our lifetime. So, all of us that have these accounts that haven't had taxes paid yet, what's the solution, right? So, as we're kind of wrapping up today, I'm going to share one additional wealth building tool that so many people are not even aware of, myself included, until about 2 years ago. And yet this strategy's been around for decades. So almost everyone on the planet is aware of these two strategies. The fixed strategy, you have, I just met with a client an hour ago. He has 440,000 sitting in a CD. It's getting him 3%, my friends. I'm telling you, all we got to do, ladies, is start opening our mouths. You know people that are in the same situation. I promise you do. Right? Just literally almost $500,000 sitting in. Do you know how happy the bank is that he has that asset sitting there, right? Thankfully, it's coming up for expiration in 30 days. And this man got in touch with me, right? But then the rest of the world is also, almost all their wealth is on the roller coaster. We just saw what it's been doing. Is there something coming, right? And yet, there's two other ways to invest. How many people have heard of secured assets? Till 2 years ago, and I am a lifelong learner in this space, I had not heard of this, right? And this is such a powerful way that we can help our clients diversify, that we can help you diversify if you are new to our community. I want to give you some very tangible examples of this. One of my favorite, and we'll talk about indexed accounts tomorrow, but this idea of real estate that's secured, an IRA that's secured by real estate. So in this example, there's a couple of different strategies that we can offer our clients. We have one that's called a land trust. Picture a land trust. All it is, for those of you that live in a neighborhood like me, at one point, my neighborhood was built in the 50s. At one point, this was a plot of dirt surrounded by orange groves, right? And a land trust company came in, probably took them about 2 years. They put roads in, they put sewer and water in, they put electrical. And guess what? They then handed the land, they sold it at a high profit to the builder. In that case, if I had been invested in my plot of land, I would have actually been in the role of a lender. I would have given my money for the land trust to develop and sell at a massive profit. And in exchange for lending my money, I would get, in this case, right now, they're averaging 15%. My friends, do you see the difference that this roller coaster that everybody's on, averaging, by the way, the market has averaged less than 8% over the last 20 years and had a massive bunch of risk and a lot of fees. And then you have this type of strategy that is also available to anyone. But guess what? Because everybody's an employee, they don't even venture down that path of discovery, right? They just kind of take whatever is offered. I can guarantee you, if land trust investments were created instead of 401k, everyone would have land trusts instead of a 401k, right? Because when you start to learn these things, you can't unsee them, right? And just think about your own assets right now. If you simply diversify, not only will you save in fees, you're going to save in loss, because there's little to no risk. You're also going to truly diversify your assets. And guess what? You're going to get a great rate of return, a lot better than the market. You're also going to have options that are short term. It's such a fallacy that you can't touch your own money until you're 59 and a half. If you employ proper tax strategy, which our team has that as well, right? Don't we? If you employ proper tax strategy, it doesn't even matter about that 10% penalty if you're not 59 and a half. You can repurpose that asset. You can get that return back in less than a year. And if you use tax strategy, then you still make out ahead, right? These investments are shorter term usually. Isn't it interesting that we've also all bought into the idea that our 401k, think about it. We've bought into the idea that we're going to save in an investment, that we're going to pay a lot of fees, we're going to possibly lose a lot, and we can't touch it until we're 59 and a half. That's what we're trained to accept in corporate America. And yet these kinds of investments have been around for over 800 years. Starting in Europe, they've been in the States for over 100 years. And yet why don't people know about these? Why aren't they diversifying? Do you see the need in our country for women to get empowered with this knowledge so that we can first put on our own masks? Of course, we can secure our own portfolios with true diversity, but then we can go out and share the good news, just like we share the good news of Jesus. So friends, as we're wrapping up today, we're dripping on you. We're giving you little ideas, throughout the week about how you can, today talk about stepping into your leadership when it comes to your gifts and what you're called to do. And also when it comes to your money, right? Stepping into your leadership to work with people that really want to partner with you. And I want to invite you, if you haven't already, I want to invite you to schedule time with our team, that, don't just show up and not take action on these ideas that we're giving you. Tomorrow, we're going to actually talk about, I'm just going to pull this up really quickly. For those of you that want to schedule time with our team, be sure, if you were invited by one of our agents, be sure and mention who you were referred by. If you're from my community, you'll be meeting with me, but you may meet with one of our other agents as well. We want to help you reimagine your American dream. We want to help you step into your leadership when it comes to money. We want to help you, go from taxed and tired to give you more time and money and true freedom in your finances. It will bring you financial peace and a lot of ability to generate more in the future. Tomorrow, day 3, friends, we're going to talk about multiplication. We're going to talk about multiplication in our wealth, in our health, in our happiness. We're going to talk about philanthropy. I would love, anyone that wants to share tomorrow. I'm going to be sharing about a couple of things. One is a passion project for me, which is my church is expanding. I would love to hear about what your favorite charities are doing. And I have a fabulous tool that I'm going to share with you that has to do with how you can create automatic giving for your favorite charities based on simply what the things that we already all do, which is use point of sale systems. And we're going to also talk about how to step into the crypto market easily, gently, not scary. It gets to be easy, right? And last but not least, really focus on how we can all make a generosity pledge in 2026. So friends, so good to see you. For our new friends coming in, we're so blessed that you made it with us here on a Tuesday. Can't wait to wrap things up tomorrow. Get your homework done, ladies. Do this for yourself. It's not for us, but we want to help you be better stewards of what God blessed you with so that you can earn and multiply and take territory for the kingdom. So blessings, everyone. We will see you tomorrow.